Good afternoon. Several months ago, in fact in November, we had I organized veterans exhibit. Now this is the second year for it. We had to skip a year in there because of our virus, but anyway, it's just about the veterans of Dade County and how they served us during their time in the service. And it's just a way for us all to gather together and get all the veterans and tell them thank you. And so that's what we've concentrated on for the past 2 years, 3 years basically, but we've only had two exhibits. The first one was on World War II, and then I will concern World War II. And last year it was Vietnam, and we skipped Korea in there somewhere. And that's appropriate because Korea is known as the Forgotten War, but we'll change that this year. Anyway, one of the things we did was ask all our senators and our representatives to attend. Um, Representative Dusty Johnson sent us a letter instead because he had prior appointment. Senator Rounds' wife was very, very sick and later passed away, and so he was unable to come. But we had Senator Hume who came, and I just received in the mail a little while ago this letter, and I really appreciate it because I mean, so many times they just forget about you, and I was really glad that he came. He only spent a few minutes there with us. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. It was half an hour, and that's at least half an hour. That's a long time for a senator to stay in one place, especially when he had other places to go in our city, in our small town. Anyway, this is what he sent me. I was really appreciative of it. And he also sent along this picture. He had this picture taken, and yeah, and that was done today. In the background, you can see hearts, and those are a Purple Heart recipients in Dade County. And I believe there were, I can't remember now, 90 some, I believe, who were wounded got Purple Hearts and were wounded in their service. Dade County has 375 living veterans that we have records of. Um, it's difficult to get those records because of the privacy laws. And so we've got to kind of go by, I know you're a veteran, do you know any other veterans? Ba, 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 ba. And what one of our main exhibits was the veterans of Dade County, and we had stars for each of them. And we ended up with 3 tables full. And people would come in and they would look at the stars and they'd find it and they'd come up to me and say, hey, you haven't got so-and-so's name on it. So then we'd add the names. So I think we came up pretty close to 300 names by the time, living veterans here in Dade County, in our county alone. So anyway, and another thing we're going to get going for next year is we had the wonderful support from the schools. In fact, I think every grade was there except for the first grade and the third grade. But the high school brought in several of their classes, um, the government classes, the history classes, whatever you call them nowadays. They brought in all their classes. Um, one study hall monitor brought in 2 or 3 different groups that hadn't been there before. Then one of the math teachers brought in her groups because they hadn't been there, and she wanted them to see what was going on. And so we really had a great support from the school, and they would come and they would look at the names and they'd say, how come my grandpa's not there? Or yeah. And my grandson looked at me and said, well, how come, who was that? We'd gone up on Memorial Day and we'd looked at the graves and taken flowers up, and there was one grave of one of my uncles I couldn't find, and we looked and looked and looked, And I knew where it was supposed to be, but do you think I could find it? I just couldn't find it. And so I finally told McCoy, I says, look for the flags and see if you can find Uncle Tubby's name. And I no more than turned around and he says, here, Grandma. And we found it. But he came up to me that day and he said, where's those, what are the names of those people that we looked for the graves at the other day? And so I went and I happened to have a book and it had all four sons there. My father and his three brothers served at the same time. And so we had a picture of them. And so I pointed it out and he said, well, where's their names? Well, I didn't have their names. I said, I don't have their names on the wall. Well, why not? Well, quite frankly, I never thought of it. And do you realize how many names I would have if I went back and put all the veterans down? Oh boy, yeah. I said, but your grandpa's name's over there. And I pointed him to Grandpa. He wasn't interested in Grandpa. He knew Grandpa was a veteran. He wanted to know about his great-grandpa and his great-uncles. So, this year, that is my project, besides Korean War, is to get up all the names that I can find of the veterans, of all the veterans in Dade County. Yeah, we're going to need a lot of room, aren't we? Good thing we've got a big building because otherwise we won't be able to carry it out. But that should be an interesting project. And then we will concentrate on the Korean War and the veterans. We concentrate mostly on the veterans. Yes, we say the Korean War, but it's the veterans that we concentrate on. And it just means that is the war that we're, I don't know what we call it. It doesn't, that's the war we're concentrating on, but it does not eliminate all the other veterans, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so that's what I got in the mail the other day. I was thrilled to death to get it. And, sometimes you need that little appreciation that you've got. So, have a great day. God bless you. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.